Alright, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Alex Superfan Show, originally named the F1 YouTube show for Alex fans who want to see him drive gooder. But it was a bit of a mouthful, so I decided to go with a new title. Today was the first race at Bahrain. I won't talk too much about qualifying as I did that in the last episode, so go check that out if you want to hear my thoughts on his qualifying. But started P15 today. And Logan Sargeant was in P16 right behind him. At the start of the race, there was a little bit of a jumble. There were cars going like 3 wide, 4 wide into the first few corners. But once the mess kind of settled down and they got into single file there, Alex found himself in P12, just a few positions away from the points. He was able to keep up with Ocon and Alpine, which was supposed to be, well, the Alpine's supposed to be quicker than the Williams, but Ocon was kind of stuck behind Norris for a few laps. Once Ocon did pass Norris, Alex got right by Norris as well, I think just a few corners later using DRS. So for a while they were kind of stuck there for a little bit, and then Ocon was notified of a grid penalty, and then Ocon jumped into the pit to serve that grid penalty, and I think Alex moved up to P11 at that point, which was kind of amazing for me. Really didn't think he'd be able to do that. So but then he was also able to pull away from Norris as well, not by much. I think he was only 1.2 or 1.3 in front of Norris by the time Norris pitted on lap 10. Alex responded a lap later, but I think Norris was having engine issues or something like that the team was trying to figure out while he was in the pit lane. So Norris actually came out in the back of the grid, I think, pretty much for the most part. And Alex was able to move back up to P11 once everybody else pitted. Now, we did have a little bit of trouble once Gasly started moving up the grid and closed down on Alex. I think he was in DRS for a good 10 laps. So the Williams was actually able to keep Gasly behind in the Alpine for quite a long time, 10 laps there. The only thing that was a little discouraging was watching Alex just continuously fall back on Valtteri in the Alfa Romeo. So even though Joe didn't have a really good race today, Valtteri did have a good race, and the Alfa Romeo looked pretty quick in Bottas's hands. So once the VSC came out after Leclerc DNF'd, both Alex and Pierre boxed for their final stint. They were both on softs, and just seems like Pierre was able to get those tires started up a lot faster as Alex lost the position like on the next lap, I think. Once green flag racing started, I think lap 42, I think it was only one lap after they had pitted, Alex lost that position and dropped back down to P10. He was as high as P9 for a little while after the VSC, but he dropped right back down to P10, and that's kind of where he sat. Again, another discouraging thing to see was Gasly literally dropping like 16 seconds on Alex between lap 42 and the end of the race. So the Alpine does look quick, and it looked quick in Ocon's hands as well. Alex only managed to overtake Ocon after that first pit stop because Ocon was still on cold tires, but he did keep Ocon behind for 2 or 3 laps before he had to come back in and serve another penalty. So clearly slower than the Alpine, and clearly slower than the Alfa Romeo. But towards the end of the race, Yuki Tsunoda ended up closing up right behind Alex as well, getting into DRS for I think maybe a handful of laps or something like that before the race was over. But Alex was able to keep him behind and ultimately came home in P10. So the car today actually looked really, really good. Most pundits, like I said in the previous video, had rated or ranked the Williams the slowest car on the grid, P10, or maybe P9 at most, but Alex was able to maintain a lead over the Alpines and the AlphaTauris while he was in front. So obviously not really, it's only one race, so it's not really indicative of what the actual pace is, and he looked clearly slower in the corners, but on the straight line speed, Alex was able to hold them back, even if they had DRS, so that was kind of encouraging to see. Kind of difficult to judge the pace of the Williams against the two Haas cars, just because the two Haas cars kind of ran into some trouble early on. I think Hulkenberg got damage on his front wing and pretty much carried it for a good chunk of the race, if not the whole race. I'm not quite sure if they replaced the front wing. I think they did eventually replace the front wing, but Hulkenberg lost a whole bunch of time due to that, and I think Magnussen actually started on the hards, which put him on the back foot as he had dropped down in like P20 once the race started. So kind of difficult to judge them against the Haas cars, but Alex did look clearly faster than the McLarens and the Alpines for a little while, so that's encouraging to see. But we ended the race today P10, bringing home 1 point. First points in the season in the first race is always nice to see, and I'm glad that the Williams is not clearly the slowest car in the grid like everybody thought it was. And it was good to see Logan Sargeant also finishing just about 7 or 8 seconds behind Alex. I know Logan was kind of off on his own the entire time. For the most part, Alex was, for the most part during the race, for the majority of the race, Alex was trying really hard to keep cars behind, so he wasted a lot of time defending, and I think he lost a little bit of time to Sargeant, who I think also had a really solid race. But I honestly think Alex probably would have finished much higher than Logan Sargeant if he hadn't had to deal with all the cars behind trying to overtake. What else do I want to talk about? Another thing that I think worked against Williams today was that they only had one set of hards. So before the start of the race, Alex had stated that they only had one set of hards. The soft tires aren't generally a good race tire, just because these compounds, the soft compounds don't really last that long. So while most other teams were going for a soft, hard strategy, Alex ended up going with a soft, hard before the VSC started. So although he was able to get pretty decent laps on the first few laps after the pit stops, those soft tires didn't really last that long. And on the second stint, while most of the grid was able to push, Alex was in tire management mode as he went from softs to softs. And I think by like lap 10 he was already complaining about the tires going, so they didn't really last that long. I'm interested to see how much better he would have done if they had gone into the race with two sets of hards and he would have been able to do a soft, hard strategy. I mean, it was kind of nullified towards the end anyway, since the VSC allowed so many drivers to pit onto another set of softs. So he ended up making 3 pit stops today, but I wonder if the VSC hadn't come out, if he would have been able to keep Gasly behind for the entire race, because as soon as they went onto that final stint of softs, Gasly just turned those tires on and, like I said, gapped Alex by about 16 seconds. So yeah, it looks like Alex was able to keep ahead of about half of the field. You know, he beat all the rookies, which most people were expecting him to do. Kind of shocked at how slow the McLarens were and how many issues they had run into. But even though I'm happy that we ended up with 1 point, finishing P10 in the first race, I don't really know if that's going to be happening on a regular occasion, just because Leclerc DNF'd. Who else DNF'd? Ocon didn't DNF. Leclerc DNF, and Ocon got hit with like 30 seconds worth of penalties, and then they ended up shutting down Ocon, I think, with a few laps to go. So those would have been 2 more cars that probably would have finished ahead of Alex. So I think he probably would have finished P12, which was pretty much where I was expecting him to finish today. Jeddah looks like it's going to be another power-hungry track with some high-speed corners, and the Williams is really lacking a lot of aero in the high-speed corners, so I don't expect them to do quite as well. But if we do get lucky again like we did today, you could probably expect to see Alex in the low points positions, probably fighting for P10, P11, P12 once again. But that's it for the first race of the F1 season. I'm really happy for Alex, really happy for Williams. Like I said, Logan Sargeant had a good race as well, finishing P12 and only about 7 or 8 seconds behind Alex. So the car looks to be in pretty decent shape, and I think on a good day and on power hungry tracks like like Monza or Spa. Just like last year, I expect the Williams to be fighting for those lower points positions. So I hope this streak continues. This has been episode 2 of our Alex Superfan show. I hope we can do some more episodes like this in a good mood like today. And yeah, I hope you guys come back and join me. Let me know your thoughts on Alex and the race today. If you think I've earned it, please feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Remember to eat your bok choy. I'll see you guys in the next episode.